All right, so we're here with Kari, and we're going to talk about some of her weight loss goals. Again, what I hope to be able to bring to you here is some clarity and some confidence, as you move forward, and hopefully kind of let you recognize a different way of looking at this whole process than you may have thought about on your own. So, give me a little bit, tell me a little bit of your history, in terms of your weight history, ups and downs, and all that stuff.
Um, Weight history has probably been mostly up. I mean, I've been trying my whole life. I want to say my first diet or memory of eating salads and wanting to lose weight was like fifth grade. So
Wow.
it's been always an issue. It's um, I've had some successes, ups and downs, but then it comes right back.
Mm-hmm.
And so and I've listened to your podcast and everything makes such sense that
Sure.
I know what to do on the nutrition. I know what to do on the exercise. It's just what's holding me back and what do I keep going back to my
Sure.
comfort and sabotaging myself essentially.
Sure. Sure. All right. So where are you at right now? I mean, how far from your goal weight are you at? Right. Where are you at right now?
I'm about 25 pounds heavier than
Okay.
my goal weight. Yeah.
All right. And when's the last time you've been at that goal weight?
Um, Close to 2 years ago.
Okay. And so what's going on? Well, first of all, how was it when you were there?
Um, it was it has its pros and cons. I mean, I loved the way I felt. I loved my energy. I loved I want to say my confidence. My confidence definitely did build up, but at the same point when I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself.
Mm.
Um and then just trying to look at the person in the mirror and not feel like that's not you, you're an imposter. How can
Right.
you look like a different person than you feel on the inside
Yeah.
essentially. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm really glad you said that. It's like I say that a lot and people never believe me because I've done it. I've had so many conversations, but it's like, yeah, externally you're getting your goal, but inside it almost feels like you don't know who the hell you are in a way.
Right,
Right.
right. Yeah.
Um, so I always say, like, I always kind of preach an inside out approach because let's face it, right? We've pretty much
Mhm.
everyone watching this has experienced it. And we know people that have lost weight and then put it back on. So we can't just
Mhm.
keep stuck in the mindset of, well, if I just lose the weight, then I'll just figure it out. Everything's gonna be great because it's just not true, right?
It's right,
Yeah.
right,
Now
right.
I do know a little bit. So one of the things, and we're gonna get more clear on this, but so one of the things, and even with the confidence, is that you're a little bit incongruent in the sense that you want to have a certain goal weight, but there's some other factors that are kind of like weighing on your mind. Is this
Right.
accurate? Let's go into that a
Yes.
little bit. Tell me a
Yeah.
little about that.
When I lost the weight and looking good, just the unwanted attention,
Mhm.
and it's particularly from men,
Sure.
um, you feel uncomfortable, you feel unsafe. It's not something that you're looking for. You're looking
Right.
to look good for yourself, not the world.
Right. Sure. No,
So
fair
it's
enough.
it's kind of it's difficult, especially when you're not used to that
Yeah.
attention. You don't know how to handle
Yeah. 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 Fair enough.
those situations.
Yeah. That I can promise you. We'll get some more congruency on that. But again, I just want to point out that so many people they just gloss over these things, right? This is, oh,
Yeah.
I'll deal with that then. I just want to lose the weight. No, you won't, because if you're worried about, there's always like subconscious reasons why we do what we do, and so
Mhm.
it's so helpful to become aware of those, and it's a process to become aware of them. It's not necessarily easy, but in my world, everything that's going on, all the results you're getting are primarily subconsciously oriented. To put it a kind of an intense way, you weigh what you want, in a weird way. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like a cold water in the face. But let's be honest, right? You've lost the weight and then you put it back on. You know you can lose it,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah,
And you've identified all these
absolutely.
things. Yeah. And you
Right.
identified, and I know because you actually are going through one of the little trainings I have is a mindset writing challenge. And that was one of the things you mentioned when you were writing to me,
Mhm.
that kind of brought up one of these subconscious
Right.
things, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those have
But
been so helpful, so
sure,
helpful.
right? Yeah,
I
they're
just
great.
did I just did day 6 the time frame.
Yeah.
yes, like a couple days ago, and that was,
Yeah.
mind blowing and life changing. Like,
Sure. Sure.
definitely can get into your deep whys right
Right, right,
there.
right. That's exactly right. And so don't get offended. People, some get, I don't want to be flippant with the you weigh what you want. I know, I don't mean it so simply, but I do mean it. I do
Right.
know that people have
No.
different issues
Mhm.
and challenges. I get that physically, but at the end of the day, pretty much, and I think it's a nice belief to have because then you're the one in power. You know what I mean? Because I think if you
Mhm.
don't believe that, then because I hear that all the time, oh, no matter what I do, I can't lose the weight. Well, that's a place of complete powerlessness, where you can never change
Mhm.
anything. So I'd rather be at the place where it's like, oh my God, what? I don't want to lose weight. What's going on there? Because at least then you can work on it and you have some chance of fixing it. Which you're going to see this is going to happen. But let me get to 25 pounds away. You've been there 2 years ago. So the first question I got to ask is what happened 2 years ago? You kind of looked at it and you said, I don't feel like myself. It just felt weird. It didn't feel right. Is that accurate?
Right. I mean, and it was a process. I had been working on it for about a year or so and had goals, and so when I say I weighed that 2 years ago, it was only for a minute.
Yeah,
It wasn't like, I stayed there for a year or 2. It
sure.
was just for a minute, and then I think I know I had some issues happen right about that time, right when I was getting healthy and getting strong and feeling good, and you go back to what you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you go back to the food for the comfort, and
Yeah, absolutely.
so
And that's not unusual. So, and that I want to say that too, because I want to just reframe sabotage. A lot of times people will say, well, I got to my goal weight and then I sabotaged myself. And
mhm,
I just don't like that framing at all because I tend to think that we do what we've been programmed to do. Right. So it's
okay.
like whatever our subconscious programming is, the weight loss process is we use our conscious willpower to fight against the subconscious programming. And at some point, usually we get bored, distracted, sick, tired, whatever, the willpower fades away and we just go back to running what we're doing.
Mhm,
So it's not so much a self-sabotage, like we're actively trying to, screw ourselves up as it is. We just can't fight against ourselves anymore. And we kind of just go back to our automatic things. So what we want to do is change the subconscious programming so that's running on autopilot. And so it's not so much that we're having to force ourselves all the time to act in new ways, but we want to, and we can install these new behavior patterns in. But let me ask you that. So what are some of the specifics you use to get down to your 25 pounds lighter? What are the methods you've been using to do that, to control your weight?
um, well, nutrition and exercise were big on that. I would say like a main thing was trying to work on my mindset
Okay.
and seeing myself differently. The daily affirmations and just having a specific goal.
Yep.
Um, and honestly, just like watching and reading other people's successes, it's
Yep.
like, well, if you can do it, why
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
I?
Gotcha.
So, I mean, and it worked, but like I said, when it comes down to those stressors, just go back to, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess subconsciously what you know, and part of it, just where I feel comfortable, where I feel safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Where you feel
Um,
safe. Yep. Yeah.
so
Understand that too. Like anyone watching this, if you're overweight, it's not that you don't want to be overweight, but you're also familiar and comfortable with it. You know what I mean? Like it's if you've existed in the world overweight for 10, 20, 30 years, if you've struggled with your weight your entire life, you don't like it, but you're also familiar with it. So there's a feeling of
mhm,
security and comfort there. Our
mhm,
brains, like uncertainty is like kryptonite to our brains. It's one of the most challenging states to be in is when we're uncertain. And we can be uncertain when we're successful. You know what I mean? Like we start all of a sudden,
yeah,
well, here I am, I'm carrying, I'm control my weight. I'm the master of my weight. Okay. Well, that's a totally different dialogue from the last previous,
yeah,
30, 40 years of my life, right? It's
mhm,
weird. It's a
mhm,
weird place to exist in.
right,
So that's
yeah,
why I always suggest to people, you got to start. And you mentioned the word
mhm.
affirmations. I like affirmations okay enough, but I think sometimes they're used in a way where you don't even believe it. Like you just keep saying it's like you're pounding yourself with it. But did you buy into those or did you kind of feel like, where are we
I
at with
feel
them?
like they worked at
Okay.
a to a certain point,
Mhm.
um, but right now they're not working.
Now they're not
So
working. Yeah, yeah.
it's kinda like, well, that's BS.
Yeah. There you go.
So
That's what I wanted to get to.
so, yeah.
Yeah. You got to recognize that. I just want to point that out there because I know there's people out there trying with the affirmations, and it's like the whole time you're doing it, you're just like, there's another voice and you're saying, this is bullshit, bullshit. Nah.
Right.
And if you feel that way, I would suggest you stop because they're
Okay.
not making, you know what I mean? It's just setting up this,
Really good.
this internal battle because you don't need to do that. You know what I mean? I'd rather take a step back and come with, in my program, there's like mantras, you know, and they're not really affirmations because there's a different context. They're framed differently. And so there are things that like you can kind of pour yourself into. They're not just telling you stuff that you have to believe. They're asking questions to help you identify a deep truth within yourself. Because this journey is always about you and you being the best version of yourself. And so that's where I want to get to now. So, okay. So you clearly have the ability when you're congruently motivated and you really want to do it, you're confident you can lose the weight if you choose to, right? You believe that?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you, again, so I'm proud of you because you've taken this next step where you realize the real control is what's going on in your brain, right? The way you're thinking about it. And you now have the experience where not only is it unfamiliar territory to be in control of your weight, but it's also now you've had enough experience only 2 years ago where you get this attention from men and you have no strategies to deal with that are working for you other than kind of putting the weight on right now. Right. And so I appreciate you recognizing that because those are weird things to say in our normal society. Those are just like, oh, I'll deal with that all day long. And it's just like, it's not true. Yeah. These are this inner side of us, this inner part of us. It's like a little child. And so as soon as it feels scared, it runs away in a very irrational ways. And I think that's a good way to think of our minds, is we have a conscious and a logical mind, or a conscious logical mind. And we have a subconscious mind. The conscious part of our mind is the part of you that knows you should lose weight, wants to lose weight, knows what you should do and tries to get you to do it. But it's the subconscious part of your mind that's actually running the show. So if you're not getting the results you want, I don't know why you would ever not look to the subconscious mind, because there's these limiting beliefs and they're just never challenged and they're never identified. And that's where they get a lot of their power from. And so as soon as we start to recognize them, like Kari, one of the big things is attention from men. And it's like, you don't have to judge it. You don't have to say, well, because that's what we tend to do. Oh, well, who cares about attention from men? So what? Well, no, if that's what you think, then that's what's going to dictate a lot of your results. So we have to deal with this and we have to come up with a better understanding that takes that into account and reframes it in a way. And we're going to work to get to that in just a moment. Okay. But it does start with a better goal, because typically in this society, it's so hard to get out of just focusing on a number, whether it's on a scale or a size clothes. And we think that's enough, but it's not. We need to give this process more meaning. So let's start there. So Kari, for you, what is it about being 25 pounds lighter that would make things so much better? Why is that the goal? What's better at 25 pounds lighter?
Well, I think, and I hope, like the confidence and just the self-esteem and just how I feel about myself, my self-image, I guess, essentially what that is. Yeah. But also, I'm 50 plus years old and I'm looking for longevity. I want to live to be 100 and plus, and be doing great, be kicking ass at 90, Yeah. I want my retirement years to be full of energy, hopefully a handful of grandkids that I can keep up with. And just, it's supposed to be the best time of my life. And that's what I'm going for.
Cool.
So,
yeah. All right. So here it comes out very quickly that longevity goal is a good one. I think that's a nice place to build around. However, it won't be the most motivating typically, because, okay, so we want to use pain and pleasure. Pain is a good motivator to help you make a decision. But pleasure is good for carrying something out, simply because our brain are pleasure-seeking mechanisms, right? So if we just build it around, and even living on a little long time is pleasurable, for sure, no doubt about it. But we want to get like moment-to-moment pleasure. The more we can do that with this process, the easier it becomes. And so the big one for you is that confidence, self-esteem, and a better self-image. So this is the big challenge for you, because just 2 years ago, you lost the weight and you didn't get any of those things. Right. So this is, this is exciting for me, because I know that we got some solutions coming up. But I'm really excited because it makes clear to other people that it's this subconscious layer, which seems stupid to our conscious mind. right? This seems stupid. Your conscious mind says, why wouldn't you feel confident? Why wouldn't you feel more self-esteem? You were right at your goal weight, you know? But I'm telling you, you're subconsciously oriented, and your subconscious mind is not logical because it just links things together. It's very Pavlovian. And so now you've linked together, you've reinforced, and I wouldn't doubt that it was there before that, but you now link together weight loss equals not feeling any more confident, not feeling much more self-esteem, right? And so now it's probably harder for you because you have very watered down motivation, right? Because what is it? Well, the longevity is still there. That one's a real one, right? But in terms of the confidence, self-esteem, and self-image, it's almost the opposite. It's almost like the more weight you lose, the less confident you're going to feel. Because you're going to go, why don't I feel confident now? I lost the weight. So now, is there something wrong with me? Do I have a broken confidence muscle? I don't know what's wrong with me. Does it feel a little bit like that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're hitting it right. Yeah. I haven't thought about that, but yes, it is very watered down, like you said.
Right.
Right.
Now, again, I'm no rocket science. Like I'm not the smartest guy, but I just like when you start understanding the subconscious mind, like all these problems you've been having, these challenges you've been having, I'm not saying we're just going to answer them because unfortunately the answer is not as quick, but the diagnosis is really simple. You know what I mean? Like it's very simple. We just link things together. We always think we're logical creatures. So we're always looking for the logical reasons why we're doing something. And we get caught in that, right? We're just like, what's wrong? Because that's probably where you're at. And I can tell you're a thinker, right? You think a lot.
Yeah. Way too much.
I already knew because literally the only people that ever do any of my stuff, they're always overthinkers. I am too. And so it's important to remember, it's like a computer thing. They have a phrase called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. And so you can have the smartest brain in the world, but what's happening is you're putting a lot of kind of shitty programming in there. You're spending a lot of your time trying to analyze why Kari's not more confident, why she hasn't lost the weight, what's wrong with me, how come I'm not doing this, how come I lost the weight and I put it back, and you're just obsessed with this. True?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Now, what you don't realize, again, when you understand the subconscious mind, that the key thing about the subconscious mind is two things. One is it doesn't understand negatives. So I tell you not to think about a banana, you're thinking about a banana, right? So when you keep saying, what's wrong with me? How come I keep overeating? How come I'm not losing the weight? You're asking these, but you're thinking about all the things you don't want, you see? And then the second thing about the subconscious mind is it doesn't understand the difference between vivid imagination and reality. So the more you think about all of those questions you're asking are about you being the Kari you don't want to be. You're trying to diagnose the problem, you see? So we call this problem-oriented thinking. And the big problem with that as a hypnotist is all the grist in the mill, all the content of what you're thinking is all the Kari you don't want to be, all of it, you know? Right. And so very rarely are you saying, and this is the hardest part for someone who is an overthinker and considers themselves to be very logical, is to just make that leap of saying, who do I want to be? What's the best version of me? How do I want to live my life? How would it feel to be that way? How would I, live that way day in and day out? And so it's so hard to just let go of because again, you think, what's happening is you think that you're going to have this cognitive breakthrough. You think one day you're going to finally like, oh, that's why I'm this way. And you think that cognitive breakthrough is going to just change everything. Right. And it's not, it's never going to, because what's controlling your weight it's much simpler. So it's very anticlimactic to realize there is no like little piece of information that's going to change everything. It really comes down to reinforcement and practicing. It's like brushing your teeth. You could analyze brushing teeth all day long, but it comes down to the minute of brushing your teeth in the morning, the minute of brushing your teeth at night. That's what keeps them clean. And it's the same thing here. You could think about theories about weight loss, psychology, nutrition, exercise all day and night long, but until you get like the actual routines and things in place, nothing's really going to matter much. So the one I'm talking about specifically is an internal one where you think about yourself as the person who you want to be, in a congruent way. Now, the challenge you have right now is that you're thinking about yourself as the person you want to be externally. You're thinking about yourself being 25 pounds lighter. That's not a motivating goal to your subconscious mind. That weight means very little to your subconscious mind. So what we want to do is we want to start with the core problem for you right now is it's a confidence problem more than anything else, I think. What do you think when I say that?
I would agree. Yeah.
And it's not confidence that you can't do it. It's confidence that you probably almost feel like you got a muted level of confidence in your life and you don't know if you'll ever be able to feel more confident. True?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you 100%. This though. What's something in your life you do feel confident about like 100%?
Wow, that's hard. Geez. I would say uh, my work ethic,
Mhm.
my hard worker, um, go getter, dependable. Um, yeah.
Great. So let me just guess. Parents that held you to a high standard growing up?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I had an older sister that I never lived up to. So
Hmm.
I guess, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Fair enough. Now, again, this don't worry, it's going to be an analytics session. It's just, it's nice sometimes to be able to point. It doesn't take a lot of analytics. It's like, yeah, it's sisters that were older than me. I got that with my
Yeah.
kids. My daughter is 6 years older. And so, the first 10 years of my son's life, and I felt I was younger too, like by 12 years. So you just feel like you're always worse at things than they are. And you build up this mindset, this self-image.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm never going to be as good as them. Right.
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
set in the first 10 years of life, and you just basically live that out, to some degree,
Right.
not because it's true, but because, that's how life goes. We kind of set these frames of who we are. And the first, 10 to 13 years is that initial frame is really powerful. All right. And it influences everything we do. It's weird. Let me just ask you this though. And again, this is one of those ones that if you want me to cut this, I can cut out. But weight wise, are they more in control of their weight than you are at this point?
Yes. I would say
Uh,
she's never struggled with her weight.
Oh, okay. So, in some weird ways, I'm not saying you're playing out this childhood story and script as an adult. Am I saying that? I guess I am saying that, aren't I? It sounds that way,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Could be.
So here's the thing. Here's the good news, right? Is once we can become aware of it. That's why I always say in the process that I'm preaching all the time, awareness is always the first step. Because if we do believe that the subconscious mind is actually in control, and what do I mean by the subconscious mind? I just mean a program, a personality program that you've been running your whole life is that I'm not as good as them, right?
Mhm.
They're better at me than this, right? And so if
Mhm.
they're good at something, you're always going to be a level or two below it with most things, right?
Right.
And so it just becomes a subconscious program that you're kind of running. It's how you see the world, right? And so if we believe that the subconscious mind is in control of our weight, we start looking there and we start wondering what could be going on there. And so we have to do that process because by nature, your conscious mind, you're aware of what you're aware of consciously, and you're not necessarily aware of what's going on subconsciously. So it's a process. And you've been going through those daily questions. They're built to bring some awareness to these processes that are running on autopilot, but that you haven't realized we're running. Okay. So as soon as you become aware of them, now it becomes very interesting because you are a smart person. And as you identify what the problem is that you had no clue, you just thought, oh, I need to eat better. I need to exercise more. That's what everyone's doing, right? They're looking on these external superficial levels. And it's like, yeah, those are important. But if the inside part, if you always think I'll never be as good as my sister at manage my weight, if that's a belief you have, then it's not what exercise and nutrition wise. It's not what you can do. It's like you're literally living up or down to the self-image you have. And if you always think you're second place, second best with this, then just by that nature, you keep yourself at this level. Does any of that ringing
Mhm.
true?
Wow. I've never thought of it like that ever. But
Yeah.
yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Perfect sense.
It's the classic. It's the child, like, kind of overtaking the parent in a sense. To some degree, there's a subconscious order to how we think about things, because we all need, again, that's what I was trying to say, like the idea that someone would lose weight and then feel less confident, for a lot of people that sounds crazy, but it doesn't for me, because it's like knowing what's going to happen is what our brain really wants more than anything else in the world. And to know what's going to happen, we have to keep everything kind of as the same as it can be. And so if we've always struggled with weight, if we've always been, kind of second place with the whole weight thing compared to that person, it's like we don't like it, but we're familiar with it. It makes us feel more comfortable in a weird way. You see? So really what's going on here, and you've proven this to yourself. So again, I'm proud of you because you're now further along the process because of that experience from 2 years ago. Now, you've used that experience from 2 years ago to just obsess about, and it causes you to feel like shit about yourself. However, it's something that we can also look at and learn a whole lot from. Okay, because you had that experience, we're able to diagnose this whole thing a lot quicker. Okay, so I'm thankful and I'm proud of you. And you should be happy that you did that 2 years ago, because it uncovered more stuff that you can recognize to help you really move forward now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So the new goal is and this is how it always is. Like, you're going to get to a better goal when it's not weight related. You always want to take like your weight loss and wrap it in personal development. Weight in and of itself is rarely enough of a motivator, because there's always these other factors that are at play. You see? So let's start articulating a better goal than just wanting to lose weight, because that's another part of why you're lacking confidence, because you got fired up, you lost 25 pounds before, and you realize now you've got proof that that's not enough for you. That didn't work. It didn't fix the problem. Right? So you're out here searching for another solution,
Right.
However, you're not articulating the solution you need appropriately. You're thinking, I need to lose the weight. And the weight's like a presenting problem. The deeper problem is this self-image piece. How do you in the world become a person who mastered their weight and is in control of it as much, if not more, than the sister? Now, if that becomes the goal, that changes it up a little bit, right? Because now it's not so much about exercise and nutrition, is it? Those really aren't the main problem.
Right. Yeah.
It starts to become about me, who I want to be. There's all of a sudden psychology, right? Which it always ends up being anyways. Okay, but let's take it there. What would that be like for you in your life to be in control of your weight, like 100%, like have it mastered and confident in it, confident in your weight and your ability to control it, just like you are with your work ethic? Is your work ethic on par with your sister's?
God, it's hard to say. I don't know. I would say I'm almost a step above, but
Hey, all right.
I mean, I don't know. She is a hard worker, but that is something that I really value about myself.
Super.
So, yeah.
Perfect. And that's why I guess that, because that's what you said. And so I think self-image wise, you identify as a really hard worker. That's a high thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make this point. I always make this point that what people tend to do is they try and make the weight loss more important. Okay. But really a much better strategy is to find out what's already important to you, what you already believe about yourself, and build the weight loss around that. Okay. So, because the weight loss really isn't the issue here. If you were congruently motivated, you can lose the weight. That you did it a couple years ago. So you can do it. It's not the situation. Some people I work with, they haven't been to their goal weight since they were 15. They passed by their goal weight and then just kept going up and up and up and haven't experienced that in 40 years. That's a different conversation. You see, you've got the control. What's happening here is you're self-limiting yourself. You're choosing to struggle with this weight because it helps you fit into your self-image of how you go in the world. What would life be like if all of a sudden Kari's in control of her weight and she doesn't struggle with it at all anymore? Weird place to be, right? Yeah.
It is. As sad as it sounds, it is a strange place. Now what?
Yeah.
What does the mind get filled with now if I'm not obsessing about it?
That's what I'm trying to say, right? The obsessing on the weight is its own trap. You know what I mean? Like, it literally, because we only have so much. I always say metaphorically, it's like you get $100 of mental energy a day. What are you going to spend it on? And what most people that want to lose weight spend $80 of it on is how much I want to lose weight and why can't I do it? As opposed to how can I live at my goal weight easily and naturally?
Yeah.
Totally different results. However, the process for you needs to be articulated different, because it's not about the weight loss. Because the weight loss in your mind, you're struggling right now because losing the weight just more quickly brings you to a sad realization that I'm never going to feel confident. I'm never going to be enough. I'm always going to struggle. You see what I mean? So there's no beyond just the attention from guys. I think a deeper one even is this endpoint where, and this is that fixed growth mindset stuff. I'm not going to go into too much here, but that you should look that up. It's really, really interesting. And again, with overthinkers, people on the perfectionist scale, you tend to be kind of fixed mindset where it's like you are what you are. Okay. But we're not what we are. We certainly to some degree are, but we can always change ourselves in a lot of ways. And certainly here, because we're just talking about a thought. We're just talking about how you think about yourself. But it's true. Yeah. All of this chatter and talk and conversation in your mind, and then this idea of mastering your weight and being there and not having that anymore, it's a vacuum, right? And what do they say? Nature abhors a vacuum and so does your mind. And so the idea, and this is for a lot of people, the idea of like actually mastering your weight and being done with it and you're never really done with it because it's like your teeth. You're never done cleaning your teeth. It's just forever. Same with your weight. However, this idea that you no longer identify as a person who struggles with your weight and instead you identify as someone who's mastered their weight, it's a totally different place to live. Okay. But it's what you want. That's what you have to start working on. Never mind nutrition and exercise. You know everything you need to know about that, where the focus needs to become. And I think you're obviously know this. That's why you're going through those questions and they're lighting up all sorts of things for you. But you're realizing the real core here, and this is, in my opinion, the real core for everyone is really getting clear on what it is you want to accomplish here. You know, what is the goal? Because if you're just saying the goal is to lose weight, you can see how now saying, oh, I just want to lose weight, you're completely missing the real story. You know, you don't want to lose weight because it's going to bring you closer to realize I don't want the attention from men, but more importantly, I don't want to get to this point to absolutely verify and validate that I can never feel confident. This is it. You know, at least now you got the hope of it. Right.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that all makes sense. So, but here's the cool thing. What we can start doing is start orienting this process around you feeling really, really as confident as you want to be, you see? But it's like, okay, so you understand exercising. So we understand if, right, oh, we got some weak muscles. So we go to the gym, we start working them out and they get stronger. And that's a simple process to understand. What we don't really think about is the same process goes on inside our mind. I've felt pretty confident in some places, but not really confident over here. Well, that doesn't mean that's who you are. Your confidence isn't like your height. You can actually feel more confident if you make that the focus. If you realize my lack of confidence in these areas is what's holding me back. That's what I want to work on. With a brain like yours, you're going to resolve this very quickly. That's why, again, you're liking those questions because they're solution-oriented questions. Make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So as soon as you start, and again, so at the end of the day, everything becomes, in my mind, self-hypnosis. Because if you're in your head trying to diagnose what the problem is, why can't I lose the weight? What's wrong with me? And again, notice, by the way, I just want to make this clear. You're a thinker. You've been thinking about this for a long time, and you never have once have gotten to any of these things we're talking about right now.
Right. Never.
Right? Because that's the nature of looping. Literally what's happening is our brain, the organizing principle is we want to conserve as much energy as possible. So asking these questions, what's wrong with me? How can I do this? You have done those conversations so many times. You have the neural connections of them. So you're just floating through the connections you already have. You're never getting anywhere new. Never. Right. And so you can feel that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can feel it already. We're going a completely different direction. And it feels a little weird, but at least it's new. You know what I mean? At least it's something interesting, you know? Yeah.
Right.
So confidence. Okay. So work ethic, that's something I would probably build around. And I have built around because I consider myself my Greek immigrant, second generation Greek immigrant. You know, my dad to some degree ate and worked himself to death. So I don't want to work that hard. I have that in me. You know what I mean? But so I recognize the qualities I have and I strategically employ them to get the results I want. So clearly your work ethic, I would build around that because subconsciously you put that, even if it's just a hair above where she's at, it's good to have it. You know what I mean? This doesn't mean you don't love her and all this other stuff, but it's just psychologically, you want to be able to reference something where you do put yourself on a par or a little above it. Okay. Because now we want to think about your work ethic in terms of your weight mastery, but not in terms of your weight mastery. We want to think about your work ethic in terms of turning yourself into the confident person you want to be. And if you did that, let me ask you this. If you magically became more confident, genuinely felt more confident, genuinely your self-esteem improved. Let's just imagine magically that happened. If those things happen, do you think it'd be easier to weigh what you wanted to?
Yeah, I kind of feel like it would just be natural. It would just naturally be there. It wouldn't be work.
Yeah.
I would get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Have you noticed that with your work? Like your work ethic kind of makes up for a lot of stuff, right? Your work ethic, because you know you're such a hard worker, you almost have faith that you're going to get the results you want.
Right.
True?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're really like, you've been thinking for probably your whole life. You're like, what the hell? I got such a hard work ethic and do this, my career, my work. And then when it comes to my weight, what the hell? Why am I not getting it?
Right. Right. Yep.
Now you realize it's because I don't believe I can lose the weight. I don't want to lose the weight because then everything gets weird. See? So the good news is that you're like one little mental shift away from changing all this. You see what I mean? It
Right.
has nothing to do with the exercise and the nutrition part. It has nothing to do with your willpower. It literally comes down to, what do I want to do? Well, I've wanted to kind of struggle with the weight because that's what I'm familiar with and I kind of know, right?
Yep.
So it starts to become articulating the goal in terms of, I want to feel completely confident and I want to feel the level of self-esteem that I deserve. Now, what would that feel like? Is there any area of your life where you do feel like kind of the self-esteem and the confidence is at a good level?
I want to say yes, for a minute when I did lose that weight and I was achieving those goals and it was like, wow, I can do this.
Sure.
So really probably that would be the smallest part of my life that I really felt like, yes, you've
Okay.
got this, girl.
Cool.
But now, like you said, it's getting watered down because we're going like this, up and
Sure.
down, up and
Yeah.
down. So
For sure, for sure. Okay, so it's clearly, in my opinion, it's an what I call an incongruent goal. Okay, when we say, and this is the same for everyone, I believe this with the weight. Most people just think, oh, just this number, and they never think about the deeper aspects of that number and what it's going to mean. Okay. The most obvious example, like sometimes people will be in a relationship, well, and all of a sudden you're going to start to lose weight. You're going to throw that relationship out of balance. You know what I mean? There's going to be some stresses from it. So it's always the case when you start making big changes in who you are as a person, you do influence different relationships we have.
yeah,
Right. And
yeah.
even for your sister, I'm telling you, like to some degree, it changes that because you've always been the younger sister and that comes with its own thing, you know? So part of this is seeing yourself as an adult woman, you know what I mean? Who has a sister. You know what I'm saying? It's a reframing
Yeah,
of it, right?
yeah,
And it's not unusual for us to do this because that was the situation for a number of years in your life. So we start to do that and then we carry it on though. That's the funny part. It's a hypnosis suggestion that lasts potentially our whole lives, you know, if we don't wake up from it. All right. So here's the fun part though, is instead of diagnosing and trying to analyze what's wrong with you, we take all that energy and we put it into what you want to be and what is right with you and building on it. And so let's go back 2 years ago. If you could have magically felt more emotion, I mean, confidence and self-esteem would have been nice. What was the challenge? I mean, if you go back 2 years ago, what was kind of like the biggest trigger that you felt like threw you off track, if there was anything?
um, yeah. I guess I would say, really just not knowing how to handle my emotions
Ah,
healthy.
yep,
Food has always been my friend and comfort.
yep,
Not having another outsource, even though I should have. I mean, exercise makes me feel wonderful and stuff, but it's
yep,
just go back to what I know and have always known. Food has always been there
yeah.
for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I appreciate that phrasing too. Because again, that's like consciously, it sounds silly to say, like, oh, the food is like my best friend. It's like, it sounds like a silly thing to
Yeah,
say, but I'm
it
subconsciously, I
does.
promise you,
Yeah.
yeah, it's exactly what it feels like. Every single food ad you've been exposed to is a hypnosis session, and they're always looking to create an emotion and attach it to their food. You know what I mean? So it's not a crazy thought. It's very intentional. It's crazy to think like those emotions we feel and that sense of companionship we feel for a food is
Mhm.
stupid because that we all feel that it's there.
Mhm.
We've been hypnotized. However, let me ask you this: with how do you want to? So the emotions, we're getting to the emotions, and this is common. So this is where another again, a lot of people will identify the weight challenge they're having is that they've sabotaged themselves. And I would suggest more often than not, the main core problem is that you've got one way to deal with your emotions, to feel the emotions you want or to not feel the emotions you don't want. It's to use food, right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
most people in America, right?
Yep.
And so all of a sudden you say, okay, I'm going to get rid of my emotional eating, but simultaneously you're getting rid of your emotional management strategies, right?
Right.
So let me ask you, what are some of the key emotions that kind of trigger, like that you struggle with? Like what emotion comes along and it's like, oh boy, how am I going to not eat when I'm feeling this way? Anywhere in this?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I almost want to say every emotion, but like the biggest ones probably are feeling like loneliness
Mm,
or just sad. Um, I would think those are like the biggest ones.
great.
Boredom is
Yeah.
huge as well.
Yep. Okay.
Um, but yeah, on a bad, stressful day, that's kind of what am I going to eat to comfort me or to
Yeah,
soothe the stress or
sure. I get that.
things like that.
It's
So,
totally common. So there's a phrase I use a lot, and I call it emotional malnourishment. We all know what physical nutritional malnourishment is, but sometimes what I was saying, right? So all these ads we've seen, they create this emotion attached to their product, right? And so we start to think like, oh, well, I'm feeling lonely, so I'll eat some food because it does feel like companionship. It literally feels like companionship when we're eating it. However, when you take a step back, you realize that's not a very good source of companionship, right? It's a low quality emotional fulfillment,
mhm,
right? It
mhm,
feels good in the moment because in the moment, our pleasure receptors are going off. We're distracting ourselves from whatever is miserable. But as soon as the eating process ends, we're back again right in the original situation with a little bit of guilt on top of it. Has that been your
right.
experience?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
You
so
never feel better. It's only
right.
temporary. It's a
Yeah.
temporary, and then you feel worse.
And then you feel worse. Exactly. Exactly. So it's the ability to take a step back from what you do and be able to look at it to identify the real issues. The issue isn't that you can't stop eating. Just what I'm saying. The thing is, can I
Right.
get myself to eat naturally? Can I stop eating that stuff in a natural, healthy way? You know what I mean? That's automatic to me.
Mhm.
And the way we get to that is, again, it's not really the weight. It's not really the food. How I'd articulate the solution is, do you have a way to genuinely deal in loneliness is the starting point. Sadness is a starting point, but we want to articulate what the goal is or what we want, if that makes sense. So it goes that like,
Mhm.
don't think about a banana, right? Oh, I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to feel sad. I don't want to feel depressed. And we think about that. But what we actually want is to feel companionship, whatever, happiness, excitement,
Mhm.
motivation, whatever. And so you know that the food, when you take a step back, you know that the food genuinely is not doing that for you. True?
Right.
Right.
True.
However, there's also a complete lack of alternative solution, right?
True. Yeah.
What would you say? Just spitball, and again, we don't go too deep into this, but this is an ongoing process. But because what I'm telling you right now is that just structurally on a more surface level, um, feeling lonely, feeling sad, feeling bored is a bigger problem than the weight.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would.
Great.
Yeah.
So this is what I mean. Like some people get they're playing the wrong game. You're trying to lose weight thinking it's going to fix any of those, and it's not necessarily. Now you could, if you articulate the goal as, I want to be the best version of myself. I want to be happier. I want to be lighter. I want to be freer. I want to feel
Mhm.
successful. I want to have more confidence in who I am and how I'm living. I want to have a healthy self-esteem because I'm a kick-ass person. I'm a really awesome person. And I want to create the companionship and the relationships and the lifestyle and the situations that really nourish my soul and make me happy. Right. So when I speak like that, it feels nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like, "Yes, please. Check, check, check. Can I have all that?"
Right. Right.
Yes.
That's what I
Yeah.
mean. So as a hypnotist, right, we're always hypnotizing ourselves. And so we tend to think like, oh, I don't want to be lonely anymore. Because people say the phrase that makes me scream is when people say, oh, it's just semantics. Well, okay, here's your semantics for you. If I tell you, I really just don't want to be lonely anymore. I'm tired of feeling sad. I don't want to be bored. I feel my self-esteem's low. I have no confidence. I just feel bad. And I don't know, I'm kind of struggling. Okay. That's one way to describe it. And the other way is I want to feel more empowered. I want to feel like the best version of myself. I want to live every day in some inspiring way. So I feel better. I want to have a healthy relationship with food. So I'm nourishing my emotional needs in a fulfilling, genuine way. So I feel alive every day and always getting better. Well, we're saying the same thing technically,
Mhm.
but one feels a hell of a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And one drives us to go to the food and one drives us to
Mhm.
find genuine solutions. So at the end of the day, I really think
Mm.
everything's hypnosis because like I had a brain, I was 50 pounds heavier binge drinking, same brain, just running different programs. You know what I mean? Different ways of thinking about
Mhm.
things. And so as we want to spend like 10% of the time articulating the problem, 90% on the solutions. And it even comes down to something as simple as, what can I do to feel more companionship? What can I do to feel more excitement and interesting things in my life? But that's the real problem as opposed to the weight. The weight's just like a symptom of that deeper problem, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. And you've proven that to yourself because you lost the weight, didn't change the inside stuff, and nothing really changed. You see? So
Right.
now it's your opportunity to do this in a much more holistic, congruent way, inside out first, is what I would suggest. And it really starts so you're familiar with the self-image, right? So we all have this identity we hold of ourselves. It's usually formed in the first 10, 13 years of life. If you're the younger kid who's always worse at everything than your older siblings, then it's very easy to create this identity of, I'm not good enough. I'm never good enough. I'm always struggling,
Mhm.
And so it's not true, but we live it as if it were true, you see? So we want to
Yeah.
start by articulating a better goal. So for you personally, let's just imagine, and I want you to be able to go to the imagination. So we're not figuring out every single problem and solution here, but we're just kind of giving a kind of a big picture, 10,000-foot view of who you want to be and how you want to live. So you living in control of your weight. Tell me a little bit, being 25 pounds lighter and having done it in a way that felt easy and enjoyable and allows you to be the person you want to be. Talk me through that process. What's Kari in that situation? Describe her to me.
Oh, I guess I would imagine that she's just lighter and free, happy, can just is okay with herself. She carries herself freely without the burden of the weight. Really just loving everybody, patient with everybody, just has great relationships. Because she has a good relationship with herself, she's confident confident in who she is and carries herself as such.
Yeah.
She enjoys exercise. She loves the way it makes her feel strong. She loves feeding herself with nutrient-rich foods. She craves those foods. The sweets and the garbage really don't mean anything to her because they're garbage, and she doesn't want to feel like garbage. So, she's just, I guess I would say, like you had said, light and free, just kind of floating.
Talk me through the
around.
self-esteem. Bring me into self-esteem, whatever that means to you. Tell me through the ideal self-esteem you'd like to have.
Just, I guess, just feeling comfortable in my own skin, not worried about who thinks what of me. Not caring about if somebody thinks I look good or don't think I look good. Am I too muscular? Am I too skinny? Or am I too bulky? It doesn't matter. Just, am I okay with that person in the mirror? That's the only vote that really counts. Who does she think she is? Who does she know she is? I should say. And just being 100% okay with just me. And I would say kind of just owning my own feelings, not having situations or thoughts or whatever, thinking, oh, so-and-so said something that made me feel, kind of own my own shit sort of a thing. And be okay with it. Just know I'm working at it and know I'm gonna get there.
Right. Okay, so you see what I mean? Like it's like you already have all that stuff in your head. That's the good news.
Yeah.
Right. How does it feel when you say that, first of all?
I love the picture of her. I do.
Sure. Yeah, I can tell. It's what we call a congruent goal. It's 100%. There's no, you may not want to deal with men's attention, but it's like in that situation, it's just like it's an annoyance. It's not a thing that's going to prevent you from being 100% who you are. That's too big of a goal, right?
Yeah, right.
These other things, again, so everything's relative. If we just think about weight, it's to be honest, I mean, literally, if we just focus on weight, it's a literal superficial goal. It's what we call an extrinsic motivator. It's the weakest form of motivation. When we start getting to 100% okay with me, I'm owning my own feelings. I don't give a shit what other people think about me, and I'm okay with myself. And I know I'm not perfect. I'm all right with that. Like, this is the stuff, right? I mean, this is the real stuff,
Right.
And part of it. I'm not saying the weight's not part of it, but again, what you always want to do is you want to make the ideal scenarios when you can get it so that the weight loss is secondary. So that the main focus is something more important and bigger, but it's also simultaneously going to help you master your weight. right? Because focusing on the weight, you've done that now. You know that it is superficial, and you didn't change anything on the inside, and you went right back to put the extra weight on. And,
Right.
and that's what awaits you. That's what awaits everyone. If you just keep doing the same thing, you just focus on the superficial stuff, the inside stuff's going to ultimately come out and be what happens. So the focus here becomes you've articulated it, and now it's about building up that muscle. Now it's not muscle, it's literal neural connections. So the idea that I want to be 100% okay with myself, which I love, because it's not saying I want to be 100% perfect. I want to be 100%
Right.
okay with myself. Recognize it.
Mhm.
So it's like the first time you have that thought, it's like the neural connections like that. And then you think it's some more tomorrow. What would it be like? What's Kari at 100% okay with myself feel like? And then you build that up a little more. And you say, how would I go to work and be that person? How would I come home and feel depressed and still be 100% okay with me? How does that version of me operate? And
Mhm.
every time you imagine and think about it, you start building these neural connections up. They get thicker and thicker into a big wire. And it starts to become the new you based on how you're thinking of yourself. You see what I mean? Not thinking like,
Uh-huh.
oh, if I lose 25 pounds, then I'm going to be 100% okay with myself. If I lose 25 pounds, then I'm going to feel confident. No, you're not. You know? So why not start
Mhm.
with the core thing now? Because I promise you, if you start to genuinely feel 100% okay with yourself, if you start to own your feelings, if you start to feel like it doesn't matter what other people think, if you start feeling more comfortable in your own skin, feeling more lighter, freer, happier, stronger, nourishing your body, if that becomes your focus and you start doing
Mhm.
those things consistently, I can almost guarantee you the weight's going to change. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
because we're getting to the core thing.
Absolutely.
Your
Right.
subconscious mind's in control of your weight anyways. Like you drop to 25 pounds and your subconscious mind, oh shit. Come on, quick, put the weight back on. Put the weight back on. I don't know. You're completely
Mhm.
unprepared for living as a 25-pound lighter Kari. True?
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So what you want to do, and this is everyone out there, and no one believes this. No one will believe this until they actually lose the weight and put it back on most of the time, But what you really want to start
Mhm.
doing is from right this moment forward, and it's already started, is you want to start practicing being that version of you, that Kari. And it's less about the eating and the exercising than it is, how am I thinking about myself? What am I thinking? And let me ask you this. Let's talk about the physiology for a second, okay? Because this is a good part to recognize. When you
Okay.
feel like someone said something about you, made some comment, whatever it is, what's a response that's not helpful for you? What's a way you might respond to that emotionally sometimes?
Um, like an external response would be normally to is that or mentally?
Internally, yeah.
Go, I guess I believe it. I mean, I kinda check it in as factual sort of stuff versus
Sure.
just an opinion or
Right.
somebody else had a bad day or
Right. Now take me through it, 'cause I
so
want to bring some awareness of you to this, because what ends up happening is we have subconscious programs. So someone says something shitty to us and we internalize, well, what's that mean? Well, maybe we say, oh yeah, they're right. Or we just reflect on it, loop on it, loop, loop, loopty, loop, loop.
Mhm.
And it creates a physiological response. So let's just imagine a time in your life when someone said something that triggered you. What was your internal response mentally and physically? Like, how do you respond to that physically and mentally?
I think, like, physically, I think physically just feel like your heart's racing and flush
Mhm.
and just yeah, kinda almost in panic mode or whatever, like, probably a ton of emotions,
Yeah.
mad, angry, feel bad,
Right.
um, and then mentally, it's hard. I'm having a hard time thinking of what I feel. I think I just feel down and
Yeah.
sad and depressed.
You do. Let me explain this real quick in a way that's practical, okay? Because again, what I like as a hypnotist, I'm just going to tell you words and logic and concepts. I want to give you something practical and actual you can use. And so what happens, what you just described is your sympathetic nervous system, that when someone says something, you literally go into a fight, flight, or freeze mode, right? And what happens is when we go into fight, flight, or freeze is the blood comes away from our brain out to our muscles, okay? This is why you can't remember what you think, because you're not thinking, you're just feeling. whatever
Okay.
emotions it is, right? And
Right.
you're not able to think of it from a calm, relaxed perspective. You're in it. You're in those emotions. And there probably is a lot of tension in your body, right? Probably. Where do you store
Mm-hmm.
tension in your body? Do you know?
Yeah, my upper back and my neck,
Yeah.
definitely.
Sure. And so someone says something and you get tense, your stomach's
Mm-hmm.
tight, and do this now, right? Tense up your shoulders, back, stomach, chest, and take a deep breath while you keep all those muscles tense.
I can't.
Exactly, right? So it's like, what, think about that, right? It becomes this
Yeah.
physiological loop. You're pulling all the blood away because what we want, the best part of your brain, I don't say the best, but a key part of your brain is your prefrontal cortex. It's what makes you you. It's when you're most creative, most clear-minded is when we're thinking with our
Okay.
prefrontal cortex. So in order to be able to think from that part of our brain, we got to relax everything. If our muscles are
Okay.
tense, they block the blood from going up there, So we
Okay.
relax things, we take a deep breath, we kind of connect to our deeper self. Now, this is where it helps to have a clear self image that's not just a physical goal. Okay.
Mm.
So once we have a goal, a better articulated goal of being, I want to feel lighter, freer. And notice, like when we went into the self esteem, we went into the better stuff, I think. All the other stuff's good too, but I want to be 100% okay with me. Right. So someone just chirps something in my ear and it's bugging me. Well, now instead of just responding to that in an automatic negative way, where you could loop on that for a week or 2 or 3 or months, maybe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
And what's happening the whole time, it feels like you're tense, your neck and your upper back sore because it's so tight. You're not breathing. You're not thinking clearly. You're just running through emotions and you're just stuck in that. And that's not how you want to be, right?
No.
Yeah. 25 pounds heavier or 25 pounds lighter. You don't want to be that way,
Right.
regardless. And that way of being is pretty consistent, is it not? In some form or another?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So I would suggest that you start to reframe this goal, because what's going to bring you much more happiness and what you're actually looking for is if you could just, let's just say, now again, you could make this much more richer, but being 100% okay with myself, that's a nice goal. I like that a lot because it's a leverage goal, right? If you were able to do that, um, a lot of things improve instantly and long term. But if you were okay, so let's just think of that person chirps in your ear and says something, you're thinking about it, and then you say, wait a second, because you're used to being relaxed and calm. You're used to being okay with yourself. And all of a sudden you feel yourself not being okay with yourself. And you say, wait a second, I want to relax here and I want to be okay with myself again. For you to be okay with yourself, what do you have to do? Let's just assume physically you relax. Okay. You relax your shoulders and your back, especially. That's where you store a lot of tension. You start breathing more fully. And now you can feel your prefrontal cortex coming back online, right? And you say to yourself, I want to be 100% okay with me. That is a life goal I have. And you've had that forever. It feels right. In that place, thinking is that Kari, where I'm 100% okay with myself. And that's what I'm working on all the time. It's that important to me because it'd be blissful to be that way, wouldn't it?
It would.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I'm having a hard time even imagining it because I feel like
Yeah.
so far from that, but it would be freeing.
Yeah.
It really would free
Yeah.
me from so many unnecessary burdens.
Yeah. So let's go into that, right? This is the fun part. This is where the fun part comes. We've done all the hard work and now's the fun part. And you hit the nail on the head. Yeah. It's hard for you to imagine it, right?
Yeah.
It's not there. It's like saying, it's like you, well, okay. So it's like if you play basketball, right? It's like you keep practicing your shot, but if you've never played basketball, you can't just like, someone can't just explain to you how to do a shot. And you just do it. There's no muscle
Right.
memory there, right?
Right.
You understand muscle memory. I get the feeling, right? You're athletic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes.
so, okay. So what's your favorite sport? What's your kind of most athletic thing you do?
Really just strength training.
Okay.
Like
Strength training.
like I never thought of that as being an athlete before, but now I do. It's like
Super.
that is a sport.
Yeah, absolutely. So
So,
strength training, how long you been doing that for?
probably about 3 years.
Great, great. So your understanding now is much different than it was 3 years ago of strength training,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you get
Absolutely.
it internally much deeper than you did 3 years ago, right?
Right.
It's like that you understand
Uh-huh.
the process.
Mhm.
So the only way you could have got that is just consistently working on strength training, right? You keep doing
Right.
it, and you just get better and better at it. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that the way you become the Kari who's 100% okay with herself is not by beating yourself up to be more okay with yourself. It's to practice being okay with yourself. It's just the same way. How'd you get stronger? What's your favorite exercise to do? What's your favorite strength? Squats?
Yeah, it would be probably squats. Yep.
So here we go, right? So you've developed a lot of strength in your lower body, right? You've developed that a lot since you've been working out. And so the only way you're able to develop that is by doing the exercise consistently, right? It's not by just watching YouTube videos or reading books about it. You had to actually do it and practice it, and you got better at it. And now you're way stronger than you were 3 years ago, right? So it's the same thing here. So it's like with weight loss, we want to be so mental. We want to figure everything out, you see? But it's just like lifting weights. It's just like squatting where, yeah, there is important to know some things, obviously, form and just different things like that. And you can study muscles and know all that stuff. Great. But at the end of the day, it comes down to one thing, how much you practice. It's that simple. So it's the same thing here. It's not about trying to understand it or logic it or get all that. It's about practicing being who is Kari, who's 100% okay with herself, because it's a foreign idea. You can't connect to it. It doesn't exist. It's a vacuum right now.
Right.
Yeah. So let's tap into that. So what I want you to do, I mean, if you want to close your eyes, it'll be more powerful. But I want you to go into your mind. And why closing your eyes is so powerful, by the way, is most of your brain's dedicated to visual stimuli. So when you close your eyes, you free up a lot of mental energy. Okay. So just close your eyes and relax your body. Relax your neck, the back of your neck, your back, your upper back, your shoulders, your chest, your stomach, your face, especially your eyes, the muscles in your face. Just let everything relax and allow yourself to breathe comfortably. You're not forcing yourself to take deep breaths. You're not forcing all the air out, but you're just breathing more fully and more comfortably. And from this place, you can begin to imagine how it would feel to be completely comfortable and confident with yourself, realizing that at the end of the day, your opinion is the only one that matters because you're up in your head all day long. And there's a distinction between being perfect and being 100% okay with yourself. And that the life journey is a lot more interesting when you're okay with yourself because you know you make mistakes and that's how you learn and grow. And so you're okay with making mistakes. You're okay with being who you are 100%. And you can test this out now as you imagine someone who had said something that's kind of gotten caught in your mind before. If you imagine it from this perspective of you being 100% confident and okay with who you are, knowing that you're doing your best and you're always working to improve things as well. You're going to work on improving yourself every day for the rest of your life. And so you don't need to be perfect. You just want to be okay with who you are. And you allow yourself to be 100% Kari. Weaknesses, strengths, everything that entails. Knowing that your work ethic is your greatest skill, and you're going to employ that to keep consistently making improvements in your life each and every day, feeling better and better on the inside and allowing that to be expressed on the outside over time. So that when you imagine someone saying something to you, you respond to it from this version of you. And you can see yourself thinking about it from this relaxed, calm perspective, knowing that you clearly want to be a person who allows things that are said to just float right over your head and not be internalized because you're busy feeling relaxed and calm on the inside so that anyone can say anything they want. And when you feel this way and you make decisions from this place, they feel different. They feel more congruent. You feel more confident and you feel more excited. And because you have that sense of certainty within you that you can reference, it can feel incredible to live as this version of you. Okay, so as you slowly come out of that, bring your eyes open and come out. What were some of your thoughts as you went through that?
Yeah, I guess just feeling like it rolling off and just taking, maybe what somebody had said and just taking what serves me and throwing the rest away. Like, look at it.
Right.
Is it true? Is it something I need to work on? And if not, just throw it away and be okay with it. Doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, they can think what they want. That's okay.
Yeah.
But not have to internalize it and feel like it defines me.
Exactly. Exactly. So now here's the thing, right? You've never had awareness of this level of what was going on, right? It was just kind of happening automatically, and you just dealt with the repercussions of it. But now that you understand this is a subconscious programming, okay? So you had the old program where someone would say something and you start, because again, right, it's not what we're thinking, it's the state we're in that while we're thinking it, right? And so if you feel less than and someone says something to you, then you start getting, oh, what's wrong with me? Why am I even responding to this? I shouldn't even care. I should blah, blah, blah. But you're still feeling like shit about it the whole time. And this way here, we always learn through contrast. And now for the first time, even just imagining it, you now imagine what it would be like if you responded from that place. And which one feels better?
Oh, definitely. Just let it roll off and just
Yeah, exactly.
move on.
So this is like, this gets to the core of it. That's why I wanted to go into this way, is that usually we think we have to figure everything out logically. You didn't figure anything out logically here. We started with accessing the state that you want to feel more of in your life. And from that place, you naturally and automatically in 30 seconds, a minute, came up with all these solutions that feel good. You see? Whereas you could have spent the next 5 months, and you have spent, because whatever you were thinking about, I know you've been thinking about for many months at least. Right? Yeah.
Right.
And it's still triggering you the exact same way all the time. But you take 30 seconds and just come at it from this angle, it feels it's completely different. You see? So there's strategies and ways to do things that are way more effective, and that's what you want to remember, because you'll forget this somewhat. That's why the reinforcement is key, right? But you need to remind yourself, again, the process I always use with people in the program, it's who do you want to be? And then the process becomes, how can I become that person? I want to be that person. It's not just I want to lose weight. It's like I want to be this person who is 100% okay with themselves, and I want to be 25 pounds lighter because I feel lighter and freer as well. But there's way more meaning now, than just thinking, oh, if I lose 25 pounds, everything's going to be great. Because that's not true now, you see?
Right.
And this is the only chance you have of success, because just focusing on the weight now, and this is so true for everyone. If you've lost weight, you were so focused on weight, you lost the weight, and then you put it back on, that's one of the worst things to deal with, because now you're just like in a tailspin. You're like, I don't what am I going to do? Because now you're like, oh, I got to do all that, and then I'm going to lose the weight, and I'm just going to put it back on. It's very difficult to get yourself started, right? The weight's never enough. And if you've lost weight and put it back on, the weight's definitely not going to be enough. So what we want to do is we want to make this a more meaningful goal. And so what I'd suggest is that you make wanting to be okay with yourself, because not being okay with yourself is the core thing that's causing you strife everywhere, regardless of what weight you're at. It's going to make no difference. If you're 25 pounds lighter, it'll make no difference in how you feel. You'll feel just as lonely, just as sad, probably more, because now you've lost the weight too, and that didn't fix it. And so now it just feels even worse, right?
Yeah.
So now you realize, no, this is a process of me becoming the best version of myself I can be. Who is the best Kari? And what happens is, this is where the fun part happens. We're just scratching the surface here, okay? Is that you take that smart brain of yours that's been focused on all the bullshit and the problems, and you start dedicating to, what is the best version of Kari? What do I want? Okay. How do I want to? Let me ask you this. This is an extension of this. How do you want to deal with attention from men? Do you want to keep the weight on so you don't have to deal? Is that the strategy you want to rely on?
Well, no, absolutely not.
Uh-huh.
No, I don't. So what is the strategy? Gosh, I don't know. Other than just relax, let it roll off. You're safe, unless I'm not physically in a safe place. Just know that I'm safe. And
right. You got to keep yourself safe for sure. But that's what I'm. Do you see what just happened there? The answer you just finally spontaneously just came up just now is the exact same thing you just practiced for 30 seconds with your eyes closed. You see? And so it's that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's the core problem, is this way of being, of feeling out of control. Like you said, it's not knowing how to manage your emotions. And the thing that triggers your emotions the most obvious way in your life has been when someone says something to you, you see, and then I don't know how to deal with this. I'm running a process where I feel worse and worse, and I keep thinking what they're saying. But the answer and solution becomes, how do I want to respond to that? How do I want to respond to someone saying something to me? And right now you have no solutions, but you're never asking that question either. Right? A week of asking that question, I guarantee you a week from now, if you kept thinking about that, you're gonna have a whole bunch of strategies in place. You pick the best one or two. We don't need a million strategies, just need one that works, you see?
Right.
But if you get obsessed with, how can I, someone says something or I get some attention, how do I want to deal with that? You got to keep yourself safe, right? We're all going to do that. But then we recognize there's being safe, and then there's just the dumb shit that people say sometimes, right? And so it's like, we can't allow that dumb stuff to dictate our whole life. Well, we don't want to. I know you don't want to, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But you're not asking the question. That's where the question becomes so important. It focuses your mind. How can I be the person who has someone say something dumb to them and gets away with it? But now you have a strategy. You just tapped into it, and then you used it spontaneously. You see, that's a strategy you can rely on. And part of it's internal. So it's like, if someone says something, it's like, I just relax and let it roll off of me. That's a strategy. And the more you practice that, the more that can become your automatic response when someone says something.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a much better one. And that's just now. I mean, you could, if you worked on that for a week, you might come up with a more elegant, complex strategy you want to use. But at least right now, being able to relax, it's a game changer, because again, when you relax, it's code for using your brain, your full brain. When someone says something, you get all freaked out, you stopped using your brain. And now you're just very reactive emotionally, you see, and that causes you to get bloop, 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 bloop. And so we want to, let me center myself, calm down, look at this from a new perspective. Who gives a shit? Or whatever it is for you. You know what I mean? That is a thing. But that feels better, doesn't it? Does it feel more powerful?
Oh, it does. It definitely does. Because then, like you said, it's now I'm in control. Yes. They're not in control. I'm in control of me and my thoughts and my feelings versus giving a stranger the control.
Right.
So, yeah, it's starting to sink in a little bit. This is exactly what I was hoping for through this. So,
yeah. And that's the idea. So it's like, again, as much as possible. That's why I say, like in my program, we go through the motivation piece, and that's the engine that drives the car. But it all starts with the self-image. Like I promise you, that is the core of every weight loss approach, in my opinion, should be the self-image of who do I want to be. One aspect of that is the weight and the size. Okay. It's a part of it, but it's a small part. And it's much more about how you want to be inside, And so it becomes this mild obsession to big obsession. I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with what's the best gym I can be. Like, I'm just obsessed. And I was like, it's like squatting. You never end. It's always, you're always improving. You're always thinking about it. How can I make it better? And it's addictive. It feels good. You see? So when you're talking about like, well, I feel bored. I feel, what were the words you used? Wrote them down here. Bored, lonely, sad. Right. Well, we're bored, lonely, and sad when we're always thinking about the problems and how we can't change. We get very engaged, happy, and motivated when we start thinking about solutions. You see, so even thinking about squatting, you think very solution oriented with that. You have an understanding of the process. You know how to improve. So once you understand your subconscious mind, you start to recognize even things I've felt my whole life I can improve and change on. And that's really inspiring, because it makes you realize you've been thinking you couldn't change any of this stuff. Right. So once you realize you can't, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, very much. I mean, very hopeful. It's like, I mean, because it is all this stuff that's been ingrained for years and years and years. And you think, how is it ever going to change? But it needs to. And it's a matter of refocusing and solution oriented versus problem oriented. That's
the biggest shift I could tell you. It's the biggest one, because it becomes this obsession with what's the best version of Kari? Who is the best Kari that I can first imagine? Because notice, and again, I want you to remember that when we talk about like, who do you want to be? Like, it's almost, you couldn't even connect to it. If you couldn't even logically take a step back and think about who you wanted to be, how are you ever just spontaneously going to become that person? There's no map in there, right? There's no destination. And so as you start thinking like, what is the best version of me? And then like you overeat and you say, what happened? Why did I overeat? What goes on there? What can I do better next time? It's just like, again, the way you approach squatting, very solution oriented. You have good days and bad days. And when you have bad days, you probably diagnose it and figure out what, and then go into it, taking that all into account. You're always growing and improving. Right. Same exact thing here. There's no failure. There's only feedback. And so someone's going to say something, and you get caught up in it a little bit. Then you want to remember this, take a step back, rethink about it, be like, oh, wow, that did work. That really does work, because you need to reinforce that a bunch of times. and make this process more than just losing weight, but more about becoming the version of Kari that you want to be. All right. That makes sense. And that process is one of defining it. The Kari you want to be right now, the ideal Kari you can think of now, to be honest, is very limited and muted. You don't think about it very much. You see?
Right.
So part of the process is you keep kind of like coming to these new levels. Oh my God, I could do that. I could do that. I could do that. I could do that. And it opens up all other areas of your life in a way. So that's the fun part of it, you know, and that's more exciting than the weight, because the weight just gets to a point and that's it. And you experience that, right? You're like, oh, I thought 25 pounds down was going to fix everything. And then when you drop 25 pounds, you're like, oh shit, same problems. It's a freak out. You know, this process here, you're starting day one with, okay, I want to be more confident. I want to feel better about myself. I want to be able to deal with people's dumb comments they may say. And that's day one. You know what I mean? And then you get a year away from there. Now you're 25 pounds lighter. You feel incredible. You know what I mean? You're confident. People are saying stuff that doesn't even matter to you anymore. But now you're working on something else. You know, now I want to be more efficient with work, or now I want to squat a new personal best, whatever it may be. The goal is, it just keeps going. It never ends for the rest of your life. Like you said, you know, you're 150 and still set new goals and whatever. You've been at the same way for 75 years now, but you still got new goals coming up along the way. You see? So that strategy sets you up for long-term success. Whereas just focusing on weight loss, you know, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No, yeah, that's exciting. I like I said, I'm hopeful, and the practicing, I guess that's what I'll have to figure out.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Again, I mean,
what to do and how to do that. But yeah, you've definitely given me a bunch of tools to utilize.
Cool. All right, Kari. Well, I really appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate getting on here and doing this. I hope this is valuable to you. This will be out. You can watch it again. And I think if you watch it again, you'll pick up on a lot more stuff. But I will tell you this. So let me just leave you with this. I don't want to leave you. How do you do that? I always suggest, what I would suggest from this point is having some daily routine. It could literally be a minute. Okay. But what it is you now have the awareness that there's a seed of the ideal Kari that I want to be. Okay. So to turn that seed into a plant, into a tree, is really just like squatting, like we're talking about, just practicing. And so if you could have 1 minute a day, starting the day is a nice spot to do it, you know, where it's like you have 1 minute in the morning where you just relax yourself. Because that was the key thing for you. As soon as you relaxed your body, you kind of calmed down, you centered, and you connected to your higher thinking. And so if you could do that each day, if you could start your day just by kind of relaxing and connecting to that version of you is that better Kari that you want to be. And from that place, it really allows you to kind of keep imagining where you want to go. Okay. But you'll recognize if you can keep that part consistent, you'll at least anchor yourself to a lot of what we're talking about here. You know, what happens is we forget that, and then life just kind of spins us off into other directions. Right. So we got to anchor ourselves down to take control and anchor ourselves to where we want to be, you know, and we can do it in as little as a minute a day. You know what I mean? It just kind of calming down, relaxing. Because do you have a relaxation kind of process you use right now in your life?
I really don't. I mean, like, I have been doing like a morning, study or something, to doing your daily things in the mornings, and that's really helped. So I have been having my morning time, but as far as just, stopping and breathing and that, don't really have a ritual. I will say I have done the free customized hypnotic session that and that like has been great for me. It's like the little 13-minute, and I've really enjoyed that. I've listened to that a few times, and those days are better. And I do start off feeling, because I can see her.
Yeah.
I mean, I can visualize the Kari that I want to be. So yeah. So, but I mean, yes and no. So I guess I have been, but I guess
you got to turn it into, it's like brushing your teeth. It's like, you want it to be like that. Like, it's something I know for the rest of my life. Like, I know I'll have, like, I do some mind work, and I'll do it even if it's just at night. I'll do it for like a second. And I love meditating. That's a different thing a little bit, but I know I'll have these forever. I love doing it. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's part of it.
Okay.
But it's knowing it's there. It's like brushing your teeth. You can't just brush them really good for a week or one day for an hour. It's just, you have to commit to the long-term thing. Right. And then it has its benefits, you assume. And so if you can commit to even a minute, I always say, like in the program, it's always consistency over intensity. you know? And if you can
Okay.
commit to the consistency of each and every day, just tapping into it, because it's you becoming the best version of you. And so it's not fake it till you make it. It's literally going to the gym. You're not faking it till you make it when you're squatting, you're building muscle, right? It's the
Right.
same thing when you use your mind. But yeah, the biggest challenge is making it consistent. But the way to do it is make it as simple as possible, as simple as you possibly can. So even if it's just a minute where you start your day and relax, because it gets easier each time you do it. You know, the more you do that, like you'll even see this, there'll be residual effects just what you did today, where it's like you'll be thinking, what is the ideal me? It'll pop up. And so that's the value of, even if you just took a minute and just imagine yourself the way you want to be, um, it's like you're creating neural connections. That's why I can say, how do you want to handle people saying something to you now? Notice you now have you have like a choice almost, and you can feel what it's like to relax and let it flow off of me.
Right.
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 So think about
Right.
that. It's a skill set that people just assume you either have it or you don't. You just
Mhm.
developed it in 20 minutes here.
Right.
It's a skill set
Yeah.
that would be really helpful to you. And so that's the process. There's a lot of other skill sets you could develop that would be helpful like that. Okay. But I just
Mhm.
want to point out that what we tend to think we are, usually we're a lot more. We have the ability to be a lot more than that. Okay. And so it starts though, anyways, by 1 minute a day is kind of the simplest. 30 seconds. If 1 minute's hard, right? It doesn't matter. Just
Okay.
something where you're anchoring in and saying, who do I want to be? What's the best version of me? How do I hold myself? How do I breathe? And it trains you to start being that version of you throughout the day. And that's where we really put it into place. But that's what I suggest to you, you know, in addition, and pay attention to all the stuff I'm sending out as well. Listen to the hypnosis session, you know, and just keep
Yeah.
up with it. Rely on your
Okay.
work ethic, you know?
Right.
So, yeah. Leaning
Good
on that.
point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right,
Yeah.
Kari. Well, this has been awesome. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this. Right. This has been helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been great.
Super.
Very helpful. I'm
Cool.
excited to watch it
Yeah.
and rewatch it again. So
Perfect.
take my
Perfect.
notes.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate
So
it. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Kari. I think you probably helped a lot of people too. It was great. I appreciate you being so open and, you know, forthcoming with all this stuff. It makes for interesting coaching sessions and hopefully helpful ones.
great. Well, you're
Cool.
welcome and thank
Yeah.
you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.